I might give you an example of 105 books of history of ancient Rome. A Frenchman, an archaeological scientist, announced that he had discovered them, was going to publish them. Some of our learned journals actually printed extracts and facsimiles from some of the works in it. Then nothing more was said. Inquiries brought the announcement that the statement of the discovery was premature, yet they had been seen by several men. Facsimiles of them had been printed, or at least extracts of some of the passages quoted, but they disappeared. Why? Because, like many other ancient records, they reveal too much of the prehistory of mankind. They told things which upset the old accepted theories of science and theology. The 105 books of history of Rome rest today in the vaults of the Vatican because it is not well for the people to know too much. The Great Library in Alexandria, which adhered to history, was destroyed in two attacks, one by the Christians and one by the Mohammedans. They contain thousands upon thousands of works that are completely unknown today and are known only by references to them in ancient works which were not destroyed by the Christians or Mohammedans. They were taken from the libraries, secreted by the writers themselves, so the public would think that they had been destroyed. Or what they do commonly is they'll take the records from these old peoples, rewrite them in their language, and say that they created them, or create a fake backstory in which they are the ones responsible for those writings. What happened to them in the books of the natural history of Solomon? This part is interesting. What happened to them in the and what happened to the books of the natural history of Solomon that were spoken of in the Old Testament? Would not books like that have been preserved, not lost to the world, except that the wise men secreted them and kept them from the knowledge of the people at large? Today we find references in such works as the Rig Veda of the Hindus, to airplanes, machine guns, and to bombs used in the wars of the time. Now, funny that that book brought up India and the flying machines are Hindustan, and the flying machines and the flying crafts that they had and the warships that they had post-flood or pre-Atlantis, or during the time of Atlantis. I got this book right here. This book's a great book. It talks all about the flying crafts, the wars at the time of Atlantis, and at the wars and the state of the world and the type of technology they had at the time of Atlantis and Lemuria. So the Book of Secrets have been restrained from the public. We can get reference by studying the ancient works that are available, but the real things have always been hidden from the mass of people. I have studied the secret scrolls in the monasteries of the East that have never been made available to the mass of mankind or to the so-called science. They give the recorded history of the world from the very beginning, just as did the Mayan codices until the conquest of Peru by Pizarro. After all of the available thousands upon thousands of codices, the Maya's ancient records were gathered together in one great pile and burned by a Catholic bishop from Rome. All of the recorded history of a race that went back to the remotest antiquity until today. There are only six known to survive of all the great libraries of Mayaland, or the Mayans. It has always been the policy of certain institutions and organizations in the world to destroy knowledge. It has also been the policy of others to preserve it. Stop listening to nations of people that destroy knowledge. Christians are not being genocided in Nigeria. They're not being genocided anywhere. There's no such thing as Christian genocide. Christians are the ones who commit the genocide. Christians were the ones that got rid of the ancient books. Christians are the ones that whitewashed Jesus. Christians are the ones that hide books of the Israelites and relabel it as theirs, just as we read in many statements from this book, and I'm going to read from many statements from other books. So let's get into it. A garden of pomegranates. We have to stop listening to these nations of people who are devils, who do nothing but hide history and steal land and burn people's legacies and steal their identities. We have to figure out who these people are, because there's a whole team of them. Okay, a garden of pomegranates. Let's get into here what it has to say. It goes that the adepts of antiquity, seeing that the cycle of spiritual degradation and mental stagnation was about to descend upon Europe with the advent of what is called the Christian era. So the Christian era is what brings in spiritual degradation and mental stagnation. Interesting. We're preoccupied with the making of plans for the preservation of their accumulated knowledge. This is talking about the ancient people, the true righteous people, the true chosen people, being chased around and having to prepare for an era of wickedness where people would try to take their stuff, relabel it, and steal it. So this is them preparing for the Christian era, which is going to bring in ignorance. We're preoccupied with the making of plans for the preservation of their accumulated knowledge. They have to hide their books. They have to hide their wisdom, because guess who's coming? It would be held in reserve for the age when men would be sufficiently advanced and spiritually unbiased to receive it. Don't I read this about Atlantis all the time? About the Atlanteans reincarnating and getting all their wisdom back? Doesn't the scriptures tell that this is going to happen with the Israelites? They're going to get all their wisdom and knowledge and wisdom back. Isn't this part of the Native Americans' prophecies as well? In the last days, they're going to wake up and get all their knowledge and wisdom and information back. Who's the only one in the Americas matching the description of this? It would be held in reserve for the age when men would be certain types of men would be sufficiently advanced for spiritually unbiased to receive it, and yet available during the intervening period, even during the cycle of complete intellectual slothfulness, so that any member of the community who felt inner urge to engage in the studies which the Kabbalah in particular deals with obtained easy access to it. That's not exactly what happened. Others were for the writing up of the knowledge as it stood, the storing of the manuscripts in vast subterranean libraries, such as Blavatsky narrates, exists today in Tibet. If you don't know Lhasa, or the city that Yahushua, Jesus, went to learn, where they kept all the records, and where many of the records from all around the world go to hide from the wicked people. When the wicked people start getting out of control and they start entering into other nations, they ship off these books into subterranean caverns, great subterranean esoteric libraries that are preserved by ancient, powerful people that are unknown of today. I have a newspaper article talking about how white people are the last ones to be looking for Tibet. White people are the last ones to be let into these underground cities of Tibet because they can't be trusted of what they do when they get the information. So they store these things in underground vaults, just like the Vatican. Interesting. Aquarius, herald of the golden age. For 2,000 years, esoteric societies have pretended to be the New Jerusalem, but they remain in old comprehension and interpret the old forms without having the keys to open the book of life. The people who ruled the church for centuries, who were they? Ordinary mortals like everyone. If one of them displayed a higher comprehension or dared to tell the true history of the world or a true history of a group of people, what would happen? If one of them displayed a higher comprehension, they were instantly excluded from the church. Read history, you will see that all those who tried to improve the church were excommunicated, eliminated, as to preserve the ignorance or to preserve the form. Form is never creative. It imprisons people. Yes, for it is a prison from which the prisoner cannot escape. Shambhala, Oasis of Light. Remember, you can screenshot this and read it. I'm going to save time, but it talks about how in each epoch or each during period of time, there's a group of people that come to spread goodness. These are our light workers, the Brotherhood of Light, the Melchizedek priesthood. They come to free humanity from its shackles and raise us from our prison state of this planet. And there's a group of people who chase them around, copy what they're saying, and bastardize it to keep us down in a lower form. What nations of people do you think are working for each side? Look around the world today and tell me what people do you think are on each side. Add this book right here talking about Lhasa, Tibet, and the underground ancient city of Shambhala, where a lot of our hidden records are still kept, a lot of true records of recordings of how the earth came to being and how creation came into being in the history of mankind. Here's the article I told you about. Invading the land where Caucasians are unwelcome. Lhasa, the city underneath Tibet. Caucasians are not welcome there. What other groups of people do you think are not welcome in these cities where they're preserving the true history of man from people that don't want that story to get out? India, Hindustan, is the only country which ancient books have survived the ravages of history. Interesting. A secret library was possibly underground, and it has been said to by many to be near Lhasa. Wow.